In one of the most heartbreaking moments of the crucifixion, as Jesus hung on the cross, in intense pain, exhausted and agonizing, he expressed a simple human need: "I am thirsty." Yet, his plea was met with cruelty. A Roman soldier took a sponge, soaked it in vinegar, and using a reed, lifted it to Jesus' lips. After drinking the vinegar, Jesus declared, "It is finished." At that moment, he gave up his spirit. This event carries profound symbolism and a cruel irony. But what if I told you this was prophesied long before his death? The most astonishing fact is that the prophecy was written by David in Psalm 69. "They put gall in my food and gave me vinegar for my thirst." This verse, written centuries before Christ's crucifixion, foretold what would happen. During the crucifixion, Jesus cried out for water, displaying his vulnerability and human suffering. In response to his thirst, he was given vinegar. This detail not only fulfilled David's prophecy literally, but also holds deep symbolic meaning. The sour and bitter vinegar symbolizes the extreme suffering Jesus endured, not only physically but also emotionally and spiritually, as he bore the weight of sin and rejection by the world. The prophecy tells us that Jesus would die shortly after accepting the bitterness of humanity, and that is exactly what happened. By drinking the vinegar, the one who came to offer salvation, love, and redemption received, in return, suffering, scorn, and a drink representing the bitterness of human experience. This act encapsulates humanity's response to salvation, a mix of indifference, misunderstanding, and rejection. Some believe the soldier sought to humiliate Jesus by offering vinegar to break his Nazarite vow, a special consecration to God that forbids drinking grape products like vinegar. This Nazarite vow adds yet another layer of meaning to vinegar in the Bible. But that is a story for another time. Shortly before the crucifixion, another moment occurred. Jesus was led to Golgotha, meaning place of the skull. There, he was offered wine mixed with myrrh, but he refused. This mixture acted as a narcotic to ease pain, but Jesus rejected it because the prophecy had not yet been fulfilled. He chose to embrace suffering fully. Later, during the crucifixion, in extreme agony, he accepted the vinegar. So far, we've seen that vinegar symbolizes humanity's bitter rejection of salvation. But Scripture reveals even deeper meanings. In Proverbs we read, "Singing songs to a heavy heart is like pouring vinegar on a wound or being cold on a winter day." This verse uses vinegar as a metaphor for irritation, like its reaction with baking soda. Singing cheerfully to someone sad can be counterproductive. Vinegar symbolizes incompatibility and discord. Another verse says, "Like vinegar to the teeth and smoke to the eyes, so is the lazy person to those who rely on them." Again, vinegar symbolizes frustration and discomfort. These metaphors reflect bitter experiences, much like the soldier's act of offering vinegar to Jesus. Revelation adds depth. The third angel sounded his trumpet, and a great star, blazing like a torch, fell on a third of the rivers. The star's name was Wormwood, and many died from the bitter waters. Though vinegar isn't mentioned, bitterness parallels its meaning. Both vinegar and wormwood represent bitterness, destruction, and purification. The vinegar offered to Jesus symbolizes the bitterness of human suffering and the cost of redemption, where Jesus accepts the sins of humanity. Now, let's revisit the vinegar offered to Jesus on the cross before his death. What if the soldier who gave Jesus vinegar intended to humiliate him, trying to break a Nazarite vow? The Nazarite vow, mentioned in Numbers 6, was a religious commitment for those dedicating themselves to God. Figures like Samson and possibly John the Baptist took this vow. Nazarites abstained from wine, cutting hair, and touching corpses. However, no evidence suggests Jesus took this vow. He drank wine at Cana and the Last Supper, touched the dead, and was called Nazareno due to Nazareth. So far, we've explored the theological meaning of vinegar. But could there be a more compassionate perspective? Some historians suggest another interpretation. In the Bible, vinegar in the historical and practical context of the crucifixion may have had a more compassionate purpose than traditionally interpreted. This act is often viewed as a cruel mockery of Jesus at his most vulnerable moment. However, historically, vinegar also served practical purposes that might suggest a less cruel intention. Among Roman soldiers, a drink called posca, a mixture of water and vinegar, was common. Posca was valued for its ability to purify water, making it safer to drink, and its refreshing effect, especially useful in hot climates and during long periods of physical exertion. Vinegar also had antibacterial properties and was used to clean and disinfect wounds. This suggests that the soldier who offered the vinegar-soaked sponge to Jesus may have intended to provide a rudimentary form of relief or cleansing. Given the severe flogging and wounds Jesus suffered before and during the crucifixion, vinegar may have been applied as a limited form of medical care. While traditionally seen as an act of humiliation, an analysis of Roman practices offers a more nuanced perspective. This act, laden with painful symbolism, allows us to reflect on the multiple layers of meaning in Jesus' sacrifice, from the brutality of the time to the spiritual and human dimensions of suffering. Explore deeper meanings and practical applications of Jesus' teachings in our next video, where we discuss his views on money and financial stewardship. Learn how biblical principles can be applied to modern life.